Welcome to the Inside Out Money Podcast.
Can't even recognize this place. Too many pieces of our past mistakes.
Hi, I'm Maggie, and I believe real change starts from the inside out. So let's work together to improve our money and our lives from the inside out. We will explore all things money and our relationship with it. Join me each week with a rotating set of co-hosts, friends, and interviews. Let's jump in.
It's time, we going round and round and round and round and round.
Hey, Liz.
Hi, Maggie. Good morning. It's so nice to see you.
Good morning. I like your energy. It's quite early on your end, so I'm impressed you got more morning energy than I have right now.
Yeah, we're all good at different things.
Yeah, but I did just run. I like always how you say we're all good at different things. Like, Maggie, you are not good at getting up early.
Yeah, but you're a lot better at running than I am.
Oh, I mean, I'm actually a very slow runner, but I'm consistently slow. Anyways, I did get a run in this morning, which I was proud of because that was like a lot for me to get in before this. Okay, for everyone who's wondering what they just joined and why we're talking about running and what we're good at, welcome to the Inside Out Money Podcast. If you are new here, this is a personal finance podcast focused on redefining wealth from the inside out. Each week, I speak with a rotating set of co-hosts about a different financial topic to help you improve your financial mindset and tactics. Today, we have co-host Liz here, also known as Liz Gets Loaded on Instagram and on her own podcast. And we are going to talk about how to get lean.
Getting lean.
Getting lean. And we're not talking about physically lean, guys, because we're already physically lean, like we're svelte. We're talking about getting financially svelte here. Is svelte a word?
I think so.
Svelte.
I think you're saying it exactly right.
Svelte. Svelte, also known as slender and elegant. Well, we would like to get your finances slender and elegant.
If they need to be, if you would like them to be.
Yeah, actually, on that point, what we really want to talk about is when times get tough and you need to get more lean and you need to pull back on things, how and what would you do, right? And I think this is almost to me like a psychological discussion because it's a what if. And I think it's actually really helpful to get mentally prepared and to think in advance about what you would do if someone lost a job, if somebody willingly left a job, if there was some big medical emergency and you couldn't work anymore. There's a lot of things that could happen. The recession hit. There's all these things that are kind of looming.
Yeah, you're in early retirement and the stock market has a rough couple of years and you want to be on the conservative side and cut back your spending.
Exactly, yeah. I like how we're giving examples that could happen to the other person.
I know. Well, this does feel especially relevant for me right now. So in my house, we actually are going from having two incomes to just one income for a little while. And I have a whole podcast episode about that if you want to know my whole financial and emotional life. Like these days, I am trying to think, where can I be smart about spending? Like I know, what's the first couple of things that aren't going to hurt? And then if things get dire, what's the plan?
Yeah, we'll put a link in the show notes to that episode if you want to hear what exactly is going on. Hey, Liz, when was the last time you guys were in a single income household ever?
Yeah, it was, I'd have to think, some number of years ago. I actually talked about this on the episode. So there was a time we knew that we were going to go down to single income and we knew it was going to be for just 6 months. And it was before I got really into personal finance and investing because I was like, oh, no problem. I'll just stop contributing to my 401k. Put some extra money.
Not the first lever. Actually, that's a great example because you'll hear of all the things we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
None of them were to stop contributing to your 401k. Now, eventually that might be something someone would need to do just to get by.
Yeah.
It's funny that neither one of us in the like hypothetical list we went through, neither one of us went there.
Yeah, that'd be like one of the last things for sure.
Yeah.
Huh, didn't even notice. Well, good for us. Good job, us.
Yeah. Okay, so we'll go through all of these things we would do. And Liz, I like the way you we both like separately wrote our list. And again, we wrote lists of what we would start to cut and roughly in what order. I just sort of listed all mine. Liz, I like how you kind of did phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. And so we'll kind of go through it that way to talk about, as we have to like escalate in the seriousness of what we would get more lean about.
Right.
I think before we get into that, it's just worth noting that, the first thing you want to do if like times are tough, or the thing that I think is the most helpful to have is an emergency fund. And so also, although we're talking about doing these things hypothetically if something were to happen, if you don't yet have an emergency fund, I would encourage you to do some of these things now so that you can use those savings to build up an emergency fund so that you are prepared if something unexpected happens. Unexpected, or where you're in like a bad work situation and you want the freedom to willingly quit work for a few weeks or months and find something else.
Yeah, having an emergency fund, having that safety net is, I mean, it helps me sleep better at night for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And then I think the other thing that's super helpful is just tracking your expenses, which we talk about all the time. Liz and I both do it. And well, what are you doing it in now?
At the moment, I'm using both Monarch and You Need a Budget to try to decide which one I like more. And it's kind of a lot of work, actually, and my own separate spreadsheet.
Nice. 3 different methods. I like how you have like a backup to the backup.
It's like an emergency fund for my expense tracking.
We'll put a link in the show notes because we both have done recent episodes where, you know, Greg and I talked about our switch from Mint and why we chose Monarch and moved to Monarch Money for our expense tracking. You don't have to use an app. You could just do it manually in a spreadsheet if you want to. But then Liz has also talked about, you've been using YNAB for a long time and are a big fan, and you're actually considering maybe
switching
to Monarch.
To Monarch. Yeah. And then I use I use a spreadsheet I bought on Etsy, and then I also use a spreadsheet on my own. But you definitely don't have to track your expenses in 4 different places. One place is perfectly sufficient and it helps you know where your money's going. So if you have to cut back, like, you know where it's all going. Doing this exercise for me was actually pretty straightforward of listing out all the places I would cut back, because I just went to the tab that shows like, okay, here's the total of everything you spent money on this year. And then in some cases, it was really easy to even click back like, okay, well, what did I spend last year or 5 years ago? Like, what am I generally spending here? How hard would it be to cut back?
Okay, well, I'll put some links in the show notes because you and I have both talked about that recently. If anyone's more curious about expense tracking, but it doesn't matter how you do it. I think it's more that we are just a big fan of expense tracking, and expense tracking can be incredibly important, particularly during a difficult time, because if you've already been tracking your expenses, it's much easier to know exactly where your money's going and exactly what you can cut back on, but also just how much that'll save you. Like to all of a sudden be in like a stressful situation and then be thinking, oh, okay, I'll just quit buying clothing, and then realize, well, actually, you only spend $1,000 a year on clothing. And not only, but you know what I mean? Like you just may not realize exactly where your money's going. Yeah. And so I just think it's like, you know, step one is you got to track your expenses.
I think that's a really, really good point. Like, even making this list, it's funny because the things that it might feel intuitively like, oh, these are the places I need to be more frugal, are not the things that move the needle the most. Like, my sort of most stingy frugal habit is I almost refuse to pay for more than one streaming service at the same time. Like, I won't pay for Hulu while I'm also paying for Netflix. My entire streaming budget for the year is like $500, which, not that, you know, $500, it's not nothing, but that is not what is moving the needle in my budget.
Yeah. There's $1,000 moves to do.
Right.
Or, you know, multiple thousand moves.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so I think, I mean, the other thing is I would challenge you guys to do your own version of what Liz and I are about to do in front of you, which is go through and think about what you could live without and what you would cut. And again, I just think it's a really good like mental exercise. And it also makes you like, I often like my point of view about money and kind of value-based and intentional spending is like, if you have the money and you're able to, you know, deal with all the things you want to deal with and priorities in your life, like, don't feel guilty spending money. You know, I've got an expensive treadmill and I put a lot of money into like running shoes and things like that, but I can afford to do that and still meet other financial and not just financial, but like other goals in my life. Right. And I think what is more troubling is when you're spending money and then you're not able to meet other goals and important things that, you know, for you, whoever you are, that matters to you. And so I think going through this exercise is important because I know for me, it made me realize, you know, and it reminds me of things I kind of already know deep down within. I could be happy with much less than I have today, much less. But it doesn't mean I can't also enjoy nice things.
Right.
Because I don't have to, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I think it's good to look at the budget and understand like, okay, if I needed to, here's where I could live and be happy. And at the same time, when I was looking at all these lists, I was like, oh, but this is all stuff I really do like. Like, there's nothing on here where I'm like, oh, I could cut that easy. That like wouldn't affect my life at all. Every single thing on here would hurt at least a little, which tells me that I'm spending money in the right places.
Yeah. Well, and I think what when you say would hurt just a little, because you've gotten kind of used to and comfortable with it and you enjoy and value it. But if I was going to use an example that might be too soon. If someone, I was going to say if like your dog was sick.
Oh, that's okay. It's fine.
Okay. Too soon. Okay.
No, you're fine.
If your dog was sick and needed a surgery that you couldn't afford, you would cut a bunch of this stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
To do that.
No, I completely would. I think what I was trying to say is there's nothing on here where I'm like, oh, I wouldn't mind losing that at all, which means tells me I'm not just sort of like spending mindlessly on things that aren't bringing joy into my life. But absolutely, if it was a choice between like dog health or human health, any number of things, I should have led with
human health, but yeah.
That's okay.
I thought you might actually prioritize dog health above human health.
That might be.
They're like right there.
My pets historically have received much better attention to their health than myself.
Than your humans.
Right.
Yeah. No, I think it's right. So I think, both can be true. You can, and I think we're making two different points here, but like you can enjoy the things we spend money on and also realize that we'll be okay without them.
100%.
Right?
I think those are the 2 points. Like one, we could live happily without these things. And two, we can spend money on these things and enjoy them if we have the money to spend.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, let's get in.
Okay. Yeah. All right. So we were thinking about this in terms of phases. So let me tell you the phases. Phase 1 is kind of like general belt tightening. Like this is stuff I might do anyways on any given month when you have those things that just kind of make you feel a little more broke, like a big car repair bill, or we're going on a vacation. So like, oh, maybe let me think about other places that I want to spend less. And then phase 2, I called if things got real. So maybe like
if shit gets real.
if like someone in your household lost an income, or you had a really substantial, like you had to replace the foundation on your house or something, like a really big expensive emergency. And then phase 3, I called a real emergency, and I don't even I'm trying to think of an example. They're all so sad.
Yeah, they're sad. We don't need to get into it. A real emergency is going to be different for everybody, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's at a different phase on kind of, just where their finances are. And so, but I think people can appreciate like what a real emergency is. And so I think those phases are pretty easy for different people to relate to, but they'll be different for everyone.
That's
right?
true.
So, and I'd worry less about the specificity of like each phase and more of just, it's an escalating seriousness of how much you all of a sudden need to cut back on your finances.
Right. In general, we're talking on a scale of like from canceling Hulu to selling my house.
Yes, exactly. That's good. Yeah. Or like ad free, having to add the ads back to Hulu. Even.
Right. Ugh.
Okay. I keep ads on Hulu, by the way.
You do?
I do. Yep.
I had a whole big like existential crisis about Hulu with ads, because you know how on Black Friday they do $1 a month with ads?
No.
Oh my gosh, how have you
or
missed
I would
this?
I don't know, or I'd have it.
Okay, next Black Friday, you can get Hulu with ads for $1 a month for the whole year.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, that's exciting. That was like a what? I'm ready for next year, Black Friday.
I know. Well, mark your calendars.
I'm so trying to like not get sucked into consumerism on Black Friday that I'm like missing some actual good deals.
It is you can do it every year. I think you have to maybe like change your credit card, change your email. In any case, so the difference then becomes between ad-free Hulu and like Earth and with ads Hulu, not just like $7 versus $15, but like $1 versus $15. You're paying 15 times as much. But I had this epiphany. I think I even did an episode about it where I was just like, I actually have $15 a month and I don't like watching ads, and I don't know why I'm like making myself watch these ads when I could easily afford not to.
Yeah, I've gone back and forth. I have had ad-free Hulu at times. Okay, so anyways. But streaming, that's where we're going to start with like general belt tightening.
Yeah, I think the first two things that come, like if I'm just kind of in a mood where I'm trying to be a little bit more lean in a month, streaming is definitely one. I don't like paying for more than one streaming service at the same time. Last year, well, for this year, our budget is about $500 for the year. That's about what we're going to end up spending. So if I canceled Spotify and then I did like either Hulu with ads or like only watch free stuff, like you can just watch free shows on YouTube, that kind of thing, I think that we could save about $400 a year, or about $33 a month. And then my second thing that I already do when I'm feeling kind of frugal, I've been doing it the last couple of weeks, is our total for gas and electric for utilities is about $3,000 a year. So I think if I can be a little bit like stingy with the AC and the heat, I could probably cut about 10% off of that and save about $300 a year, about $25 a month. I've been doing that this month. We have our thermostat set to 64 and I am cold.
I'm cold too. Ours is, when Greg's not looking, I turn ours down to like 62, 63, but normally it's around 65. One of my favorite, you have some like really good phrases on various things, but one of my favorite phrases of yours, Liz, is you say you've been trying to like heat the person, not the house.
Right.
Or do you say heat the room, not the house?
Yeah. Well, sometimes it's all of those, right? So sometimes you're trying to heat the person. Right now, I'm sitting here with a space heater. So just heating this room. Because even like we set our thermostat to 64, but I turned my space heater on in my office this morning and it tells me the current temperature in the room and it was 59.
Yeah, we have an old house too. And like it's a different temperature in like every part of the house. It's never quite what it says.
Yeah. But you heat the person, right? So like hold a hot water bottle, like put on a sweater, have little hand warmers, or heat the room. All of that is better than like heating your whole house.
Yeah. I mean, one of my kids yesterday was like asking us, it's sort of winter here, but it's kind of warm, was asking us to turn on the overhead ceiling fan. And I'm like under a blanket on the couch.
What?
And she was wearing an hoodie. And I go, why don't you take off your hoodie? It was like, those are really like thick and warm.
Oh,
I was
nice.
like, if you're hot, let's take the hoodie off before we adjust the temperature for like, everybody else in here.
I gotta look up an hoodie. I have a hoodie footy, which is a brand, and it's like just what it sounds like. It's like footed pajamas with a hood, and it's so good.
An hoodie's like a big sweatshirt, real thick. Like,
oh, nice.
It's like a blanket that's a big, I don't know. It looks like one of those old Baja. Remember? Is it called Baja? It's like that, but it's like a blanket fleece material.
That sounds great.
Remember is that what they were called? Baja, like pullovers?
I don't know what you're talking about.
Popular in the 90s. Oh, okay. Never mind.
Sure.
It was like a pullover. Like
okay.
Surfer. I don't know.
I think you were more fashionable than I was in the 90s.
I don't know. If you had seen me in the 90s, you would never make that statement. I was definitely less fashionable then. Okay. So yeah, I agree. I would cut back on some streaming and I maybe think I could save a couple hundred. I do try to, not keep them all like turned on at once, but lately we've gotten a little lazy here. We need to like clean up some stuff with our streaming things. But yeah, I could maybe get, $200 to $300 a year by changing and limiting some of our streaming service.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. So small things. I don't know that I could do much more on our utilities. We're already pretty like frugal and keep it I mean, we're pretty, the kids complain. I'll put it that way.
Yeah. I like to think I'm like pretty stingy about it, but even I could work downstairs instead of upstairs and then we wouldn't have to like run the AC as much, that kind of stuff. It would be some bigger things, but.
Yeah. And those are smaller savings. They're not nothing, but yeah, there are a lot of change for small win.
Yeah. Probably my most like, this is definitely a really luxury thing that I could cut is dog walkers. So I was looking at like grooming and dog walking. I only paid for grooming. Sometimes it's just nice to pay someone else to give your dog a bath. Like we don't have a dog where they have to go to the groomer and they have to get a haircut and stuff. We just like sometimes pay someone else to do the bath because it's easier. But we are on track this year to spend $900 on dog walkers, which even I was like, wait, what? That's a lot. When you add it up, it's about $25 every time they come. And we could avoid that. We only use a dog walker when both of us go into the office on the same day. Like we both generally work from home and then occasionally, a couple times a week, maybe go in and work from an office. And if we just coordinated, so we went in not on the same day, we could save that entirely or at least cut it back. I'm sure there's some days we both have to go in for meetings or whatever, but could probably easily save like $600 a year, $50 a month.
Well, I mean, you're about to temporarily cut that back, right?
Yes, exactly.
One of you is not working for even just a little while. You've got
yeah.
But I didn't think that was a crazy amount. I mean, I don't have any pets, but I was doing the math on that. That is 36 dog walking sessions a year.
So it's like 3 times a month.
Seems like reasonable. Yeah.
It doesn't
seem crazy.
It seems
to your
reasonable,
point,
but
yeah, you could.
Like for, I don't know, almost $1,000 a year, I was like, whoa, I feel like I would rather spend $1,000 a year on something else. But
yeah.
Anyways.
I was trying to think what my equivalent of like dog walking is. I don't think I have one.
Kid walking.
Yeah. Kids walk for free. They walk themselves at this age.
Amazing.
Okay. What else would you pull back?
I would pull back on home decor. And this year, I was looking at this year. This year was kind of an anomaly. We spent about $5,000 on home decor. Like I worked with a designer. We moved into this house 2 or 3 years ago and I wanted to feel like it was finished, if that makes sense. But I looked back on past years and it's definitely gone up and down. But I'd say we probably average about $100 a month. And it's not like $100 a month. It ends up being like $300 one month and then nothing for a couple months, right? But I mean, this chair my fancy desk chair that I'm sitting in, I just paid a couple $100 for. So if I was feeling lean, I'd be like, no new throw pillows, no new desk chairs, no new dining room chairs, no new sheets, no new towels for however long I needed to. And I think if we could probably save like $1,200 a a year.
Yeah. It's funny. That's one I would cut back on too. I'm probably pretty similar to you, and like I don't spend a massive amount, but you know, it's like the holiday season. We upgraded our artificial tree. I bought some new lights for the outside, like just stuff I'd be like, oh, I'm totally fine without that. I would not do any of that. And I would maybe save $1,000 a year, similar to you.
Yeah.
And like, I think last year we bought a new couch, which I hadn't bought in 10 plus years, but I could have kept my old couch. And if I was tight on money, I would have kept my couch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or tried to buy something used or something else.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
Yeah, home decor for sure. And again, it's not a massive, it's in the $1,000 camp of a saving per year, which is not nothing.
Yeah.
But I got some bigger categories I could pull back.
Yep. Same. One that sneaks up on me is electronics. Like, I don't think of myself as an electronics person. Like, I'm not out here buying new gadgets, new phones, new stuff all the time. But when I think about everything that goes into it, so like phones, iPads, computers, AirPods, other headphones when you lose your AirPods, like a printer of external hard drive as a backup. Like, we both use special ergonomic keyboards and mice and have been like, oh, actually, it would be really nice to have one at work and at home. Like, it all adds up. And I was looking back on previous years. Like, sometimes it's literally $0 for the year and sometimes it's $3,000 for the year. But I think that would be another one where it could probably be like about $100 a month or $1,200 a year if we just said, okay, everything we have is fine. Like, we're going to use everything until it breaks. And even if it breaks, we'll figure out a way to be alive.
Yeah. No, like complimentary upgrades. Like, there are definitely electronics I've upgraded before they have broken because there's something newer, better out, and I would just like the upgrade.
Right.
So I sort of agree on some things like the upgrades, but I will say there's other electronic stuff like the quality of my laptop or phone or, some other things. Again, I might delay them, but I would put certain electronics in phase 2 or 3 for me and some other things in phase 1. And I was trying to think what one of my other phase 1 things would be. Like, I don't know how to categorize it other than like random shit I don't have to have. I don't buy a lot of it, but I mean, like, there's clothing I definitely wouldn't buy that I don't need, especially since I'm early retired. I mean, the clothing I have purchased this past year, other than running shoes, which I would put in a further category, has been 100% leisure clothing, right? Like a sweatshirt, a pair of sweatpants, a pair of jeans, stuff like that, a pair of new shoes, pair of Nikes. I do not need them. I could do without them, and it would be in my phase 1 of cutting. And also a lot of other kind of just random like Amazon purchases. I don't buy a crazy amount from Amazon, but they'll just be something. I can't even think of a good example. Man, we could do a whole episode and like pull up our...
We should be like share...
Yeah.
Like critique
like
my Amazon spending.
It. Yeah.
I like it.
I have to like open mine and Greg. I mean, I ordered some gold shoelaces for Greg for a party, a bunch of lollipops, some new string lights for the new more sticks, a light up basketball. Greg wanted some new softer washcloths, and I was like, baby, you want soft washcloths? I get you some. They'll be here tomorrow.
Yeah.
A lid for our solo stove. I mean, there's like, when I look at this, I'm like, I could do I bought some new Halloween decor.
You could live without all of that.
I could live without...
It brought you joy, but you don't...
Yes, I could live without all of this. And so I put that sort of random crap I don't have to have in my guesstimate is that would save me a few thousand a year, 2,000 to 3,000.
I'm with you on, you mentioned clothes, even like just going down to one income. I have like 3 pairs of Lululemon leggings and 2 shirts that I wear like on repeat. Like, I own a bunch of other workout clothes that are now in the Goodwill, at least in the like probably Goodwill pile.
Like the staging.
Exactly.
Or they're like simmering.
I have these like 3 pairs of leggings and 2 shirts I wear on repeat. And I was like, you know what? My life would actually be a lot better if I bought 1 more pair of leggings and 1 more shirt just to manage the laundry cycle more efficiently. And I was about to spend $200 on that. And then I was like, actually, I think I'll wait until we are back to a 2-income household.
Yeah. That could be your reward for yourself.
Yeah, exactly. That'd be good. And
okay.
Yeah, I had one other thing. It's funny because it's not even, like we talked about, it's not even necessarily always about dollars, but there's some things I spend money on that just feel like a luxury, that just feel like, oh, this is kind of a thing you don't need to spend money on. Home decor is one, electronics are one. And the last one for me is ride shares, like Lyft and Uber. So we're on track to spend $300 on Lyfts this year. So if we each just like took turns being the designated driver, when we went to concerts or restaurants or something, we could save $300 a year or like $25 a month. It just always feels like a lot. Like if we go out to dinner and it's $100 and then the Lyft there and back is like another, $30 each way or something, I'm like, that's almost as much. That's like half as much as the dinner was. It just feels expensive, even though it doesn't add up to that many dollars.
Yeah, that's how we don't use babysitters a lot because we've always had the pleasure of like my mom can help us.
Yeah.
Or they're with our exes or something. But like, that's how babysitting is to a lot of people. It's
Yeah.
like 80% of the cost of your night out might be the $100 you got to pay your babysitter.
Right. Yeah. That is, that I feel that.
Okay. There's like one or two other things I'd put in phase one. And I will tell you one that I was struggling with if it would be in like phase one or two. And I'll maybe never know until if I ever have to face this, is similar to the sort of random crap I don't have to have. There's also the same category for my kids. And I was kind of like ordering them being like, well, what would I cut first? Like,
I was just going to ask you, what's
my
easier?
Superfluous clothes, or like I just bought Kate a bunch of Lululemon stuff for her birthday.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have done that if I was struggling. Now, I might have still bought her one thing. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want my kids to fully suffer is not the right word, by the way, because I grew up with none of the crap they have and I was totally fine.
Yeah.
If anything, you learn a lot through it.
Yeah.
But I think part of me is like, I probably would keep things in line with whatever I have, they have, if that makes sense. Because I'm not a big fan of like people who are, well, this is going to sound judgmental, but I'm just going to say it.
It's fine.
I'm not a big fan of people who are struggling themselves financially, but then like buy their kids Lululemon.
Yeah.
Like I just think because I think it sends a wrong message to your kids is my point.
Yeah.
And so I do think there should be like some level, you don't want to stress your kids out about money, but you should be transparent about what you can and can't afford and why.
Yeah.
And we try to do that with our kids. And, we try to, when they want to go out with their friends to go out to dinner, we're like, we're not even doing that as a family because of how we spend our money and what we value. So if you want to do that, you need to use your allowance.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we'll give you ways to earn money. But anyways, so I try to like, I think my goal would be whatever. I certainly would not cut the kids' sports. That's something I'd put like much further because that is important to me and them.
Yeah.
But superfluous things like taking them to Starbucks and getting them more name brand clothing and things. I mean, they'd be clothed, but whether they need like, I'd be buying them Lululemon dupes off Amazon, which I should be buying them anyways.
I was going to say, if it makes you feel like better about sounding maybe the teeniest bit judgmental about something I think it's fine to be judgmental about, it actually like kind of blows my mind when I go into Lululemon and I see
the kids.
Preteens like in $100 leggings. And I don't know what, like I try to unpack that sometimes. I'm like, what does it matter? Like if their parents want to spend this money on them, it doesn't. And I'm like, but they're going to be spoiled. And I'm like, whatever, like it's fine. They can have nice things. Yeah. Maybe they really appreciate it. But I am like, wait, I didn't even buy those for myself until like I was in my 30s.
I will tell you, I mean, I've come full circle. I swore many, many years ago, I was like, I would never buy a still growing child Lululemon. That is ridiculous.
Yeah.
But you get worn down by the pressure, the peer pressure that your kids are under, that you're then under.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like, I'm like, well, I can afford it. I want to make you happy. I'm doing it in moderation. I don't just buy them whatever they want.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have the added pressure of, I've got peer pressure within my own house, right? So when my stepchildren have something and then my daughter sees them, then I'm, so it's even more, but it's not just that. I mean, like a lot of the kids at school, like all wear Lululemon. Like that's the style quote, but there's dupes and anyways.
Right. I understand that though. Like you're not just having to coordinate with Greg about when it comes to like parenting and what you have to coordinate with other, like 4 other adults.
Yes. Yeah. And we all have different, financial values and views.
Right.
And, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's no different. It's somewhat different because in my house, but it's not that different than the fact that every single one of my kids' friends and who she's around also has a different set of parents with a different set of, financial views, values. So anyways, I think I had an interesting just like internal dialogue on like, well, like, of course I would put my kids before me, right? Would I?
Maybe.
And like whose stuff would get cut first? I will say I'm not growing anymore. And so you would argue the investment in Lululemon for me is a more solid investment than
I agree with that.
Things for someone who is still growing at a pretty fast clip.
Yeah.
Anyways, okay. So I think that's kind of like phase 1. Are we going to move to like the if things got real, phase 2?
Yep. Phase 2, if things got real. So things that would, I guess in my mind, these are things that would hurt a little bit more. And the first thing that came to my mind is just like, if things got very real, I would not want to do this, but I would cancel my Peloton membership. I have the equipment and I could still use it, but like the subscription is $50 a month to take the live classes.
What if things got really real, would you sell your Peloton equipment?
I would, but it would have to be a situation where like I didn't think I was going to want it back later, because it would be more expensive to sell it and then try to buy it again, new or used. Like it would just be a lot of work. Yeah. In phase 3, I talk about selling my, like I'd have to sell my, I would have to sell all my workout equipment if we downsize to like a smaller place to live too. We have like a whole home gym, but anyways,
okay, so you'd cancel Peloton. That's a big deal for you.
$50 a month, $600 a year, or like it's a thing you could pause though, right? And say like, hey, I need to turn this off and turn it back on in a couple months.
My version of your sadness of having to cancel your Peloton would be lawn care, because Greg and I could. I mean, we don't have jobs. We could put on our big adult pants.
Yeah.
First off, I do clean my own house, so I'm just like, I'm not above manual labor.
Yeah.
I like doing things myself. I do all sorts of crap. I get on my roof and like blow the leaves off. There's something about like trimming hedges, which we have a lot of. Mm-hmm. And like, I don't even mind mowing the lawn. It's the like detailed lawn care and leaves. And it's just like, it's a lot.
It is.
It's just a lot.
It's so much. I also had this in phase 2 because we could do it and we've done it, but like I would hate it. And it's not the mowing, like mowing is fine. It's more knowing what to do. Like, oh, is that a weed or is it not a weed? Am I supposed to pull that? Should I spray something here? Like,
what time of year do you cut back the monkey grass?
Exactly. That is the stressful part, and just being able to pay someone else to do it. It also is like hard on my body sometimes. It just like hurts my back.
So I would save about $1,600 a year if we cut our lawn care.
I would save about $2,500 a year, but I don't want to.
I get it. Neither of us want to do that.
Yeah.
That's one of those where I actually thought once we quit our jobs, we would do that ourselves. And then Greg and I quickly looked at each other and we're like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have on this list in phase 2 travel, and not cutting it out entirely. But I think, so we have spent pretty consistently over the last few years, even this year when we only did a couple like domestic trips, we spent about $12,000. And I think if we cut back, if we flew on, tried to fly on Tuesdays and Wednesdays instead of doing it more conveniently when it's on Friday and Sunday, if we used points and travel hacking, we could easily get that, not that easily, but we could get it down to maybe half of that. So $6,000 a year, which would save like $500 a month.
So it's funny. I was a little bit debating like where exactly I would put travel. It would be like I'd have like a little bit of travel in each category. Phase, probably. But I agree. Travel would probably kind of kick in about here. But we spend like this year we spent $20,000 on travel. And, some of that's like something, we're booking into next year, but that always happens every year. And so we've pretty consistently spent, $15,000 to $25,000 a year on travel. It's a big priority for us. We try to take the kids on, an international trip every year if we can. Mm-hmm. And I wouldn't stop traveling, but I would stop that kind of traveling.
Right.
We would do more local stuff. I've always been like fascinated by house sitting and like almost joined a house sitting service. I would look into more stuff like that. We'd do more camping stuff. We'd also go visit like there's a ton of friends and family in cool locations in the US that we could drive to. We do more road trips like that. I mean, we could get our travel. We could cut overnight. I could cut $15,000 off my travel and be totally fine. Right. I do enjoy traveling. It's a lovely luxury. I didn't get to take any trips like I take now as a kid. And again, was totally fine. And so that's one where we could save, 20% of our money overnight and we'd be fine. And again, this is one where like back to the point we made at the beginning, I'm very confident and I know two things can be true. I can highly value travel and make it a priority spending area. And I can be totally fine if I couldn't afford it anymore.
Right.
I feel that way about travel, cars. There's a bunch of things
yeah,
I feel
exactly.
that way about.
Yeah. I think that's really like the salient theme of this episode is like, here are things that I like, but also I would be totally fine without it. And I thought you had a really good point too about like camping, road trips, going to visit family, because I wouldn't cut this into, I mean, again, unless like, it was a real sort of everything's on fire emergency. Like I still want to go see my family. I still want to get out of town and do different things. but like, do we need to go to Paris? We do not.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. I'd be like, yeah, guys, hop in the car. I want to visit Liz.
Exactly. I would love that. I would love that.
Okay.
Let's see.
So speaking of cars, which I just briefly mentioned, I put this in phase 2. If we're saying this is if things got real, both of the cars we have are nicer than we need, right? Like by far newer and nicer. I mean, I think like one's a 2019 and one's a 2023. And I would totally just sell we have a Subaru Ascent that we bought for the third row. It's much less, it's nice to have. We use the third row every now and then. I use it this weekend actually, but I could get by without it. And we did for a long time. I did it so we could have the convenience of being able to, have each one of our kids have a friend and be able to drive somewhere. Yeah. But I would sell that car and we would be a 1-car family. And I think there's a few times when it would be a little bit of an inconvenience, but we could totally get by and be better coordinated with things, especially since we quit our jobs. And so that would be, I haven't done like the Kelly Blue Book on that car, but like, I don't know, I think a $35,000 surplus
nice.
Of, incoming money. And so I would totally, if I didn't just sell it and go to a 1-car household, I would certainly sell it and move to a much less spent car.
Yeah.
That would just, get us where we need to go.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I was kind of thinking about like ways to make extra money. I know you sell things like for fun, if that makes sense. But there could be a
as
shift.
I'm decluttering, I think it's fun to get something back for the things.
Right, but you're not necessarily trying to like augment your income by selling things on Poshmark or on Facebook Marketplace. But
I'm actually just trying to motivate myself to get rid of crap.
Exactly, but you could shift into kind of more of a like, okay, let me look around and really try to make money there. I'm sure there are things in my house that I could sell. I don't think I have that many things that people would want to pay money for. But I was thinking, like, if things really started to get real, I would rent a room out in our house. It's just the two of us, and we have a pretty nice guest room. And we could either put it onto Airbnb and like kind of temporarily get some income that way, or look for a roommate, maybe on a 6-month lease to start, see how things went. And I think we could get like $1,200 for a roommate situation. I think we could get like $1,200 a month easily, maybe even more. And that's always something like in my back pocket as something that we could do pretty quickly that would be reasonably meaningful.
That's an interesting one I hadn't thought about. I would not do that having 3 kids myself, but I would totally do that if we had more space.
Yeah. I've also thought about, I would really prefer, this would actually be better, instead of a human roommate, start doing like dog boarding. Yeah. So like get on Rover and Wag, not necessarily to go walk dogs, but like to watch people's dogs when they're out of town, just like drop them off. And I do that for free for tons of people anyways. So that would be great.
That's a great one. And I think in general, there's a lot of things that we'll talk about that people could cut back on. But the other side of it is you can also make money doing things like that, doing different side hustles, selling things you have that may be of meaningful value. But then also, I've been in this big decluttering thing where I'm trying to get rid of 2023 things before the end of 2024.
Yeah.
And I'm not even trying to sell most stuff, but every now and then I see, I'm coming across things where I'm like, oh, this would probably sell. And, I'll post 5 or 6 things and make $100 in a day.
Yeah.
And I don't do that every day, but there's a lot of things lying around many people's home that are of value to someone else and that, you may not be using or valuing enough. And so I definitely think, if things really are getting $100 helps and, getting $100 is a meaningful amount of stuff. So I would definitely get more aggressive about selling stuff that I just don't need.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But not your Peloton.
I would be really sad to sell my Peloton.
Oh, that's in phase 3. It's okay.
That would be, exactly.
Or phase 4.
Yeah. All right. The other things I had kind of jotted down around phase 2, we spent a lot of money on Christmas. It has just ballooned this year we're on track to spend about $2,000. It's like $600 on holiday cards, which I know is a lot, but I love them. But I could definitely cut that or do like a cheaper, Snapfish card or something. About $500 on gifts, like for my team at work, and then about $800-ish on gifts for family. And I think we could easily, like if I needed to, I could do all of that for probably half the cost. I could talk to my family and just say like, hey, we're not doing gifts this year. Like if something real was happening in my life, of course I could go to my family and be like, I'm not going to send you a nice Christmas gift this year. They would understand. They would still love me.
We spend very little on Christmas. We buy our kids some presents and we don't really even go crazy in that category. And we spend very little. And we do digital holiday cards just a year ago. But so I don't think we'd save much in this category.
Yeah, I know, but I can't hang a digital card on the fridge.
Well, I love receiving everyone's cards. I just was like, I'm going to I'm opting out of this personally.
Yeah.
But I really do love receiving everyone else's. So if everybody went digital, I might be a little sad.
I know. Yeah. I really think of it as a charitable service for that. Or you could also cut back on the list, right? Like we send out, I don't know, this year I think I got close to like 200 and
Yeah.
I could cut some people already. I was like, this
Right.
is just a lady who used to go to my gym. I think I'm gonna,
Well, I'm
we were
glad I-
friendly, but like, you know, we haven't talked in a couple of years.
I'm glad I didn't get cut because I got a card this year.
Yeah, you're still on the list, but
Well, speaking of it being like a charitable activity, I was kind of surprised where you ranked charitable giving. I mean, in an admirable way, that it didn't make phase one.
yeah, I feel the thing is that charitable giving is an interesting one. It's really important to me. So I'm thinking about it a lot right now because we're going to, at least temporarily, one income household. And I'm like, I will probably pause or slow down. So this year our total is going to be about $13,000 that we gave to charity. So like a little bit over $1,000 a month. I am probably going to pause that for at least a couple months and cut it back to something like $100 a month. I do think there's something about karma. I think there's something about like, there's a saying, I did not come up with this, like you can't receive with a tight fist, right? Like you kind of have to like open up your wallet and be charitable with others. And then your wallet is open for like money to flow back into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I do sometimes move that around in the year, right? Like I might be like, okay, let's wait until we're back to being a dual income household. And then we can kind of catch up
Yeah.
on.
amp it up, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But it is like an easy just thing to be like, okay, if things got real.
I think just to be totally frank, I would probably put this in my phase one. But this is like a whole podcast episode we could have someday because I'll be very honest. Since leaving work, I have cut back heavily in this area and don't plan to re-amp it up aggressively like the way it used to be when I had a big job until my kids get to college.
Yeah, I think that's totally fine. It's something that goes up and down
Yeah.
with your income. You also have like more time to volunteer. I mean, in my 20s, I didn't give a lot. Like I would volunteer. I would go, you know, when the public radio does the pledge drive, like I would answer the phone and like take
that's
people's, it was actually really fun.
That sounds like it might be.
Yeah, like I volunteered with my local public radio station. So I would answer the phone for pledge drives. I would also go sometimes to events and they would like let me wear the Arthur costume. With like me kids. And it was really fun.
Oh
and
my
as I got
gosh.
older, like I had more money and less time. So it shifted to like less volunteering, more giving money. And I think it's normal for that to go up and
that's a
down
good
through your
point.
life.
I'm definitely in the giving more time phase.
Yeah.
But no, I do. I think it is admirable in general that you do prioritize that. And I know it is important. And I agree with whatever phrase you couldn't quite, you said it, but
You can't receive with a closed fist. Like,
Yes.
like imagine you're holding your
Yes.
money really tight with a closed fist. You can't like
it also
accept
can't
anything.
come in if it can't
yeah.
go out. No, I agree. Charitable giving is important to the right places. And I mean, by the way, I don't mean the right places as in like, I mean in organizations that are doing good with it, because there certainly are places you can donate to where the money is not being put to good use. And so I think looking at where your money is going, and there's certain sites like, is it Charitable Navigator?
Yeah. That's when Give Well is one. The Life You Can Save is my favorite, but there's a lot of we did you and I did
You
I
did.
think I've done more than one episode maybe about charitable giving.
Yeah. Okay, so like, wait, hold on. Actually, I got something else in phase two that maybe would have been phase one because I don't even like these braces. There are some medical things that I would consider optional. And like, even when I did my TMJ treatment, I didn't have to do it. And I actually now regret doing it, which is a whole different story because it just then caused some need for some ortho work. And I think I've like come to my own diagnosis that if I had just never done either, I would have been in a better position. Like the TMJ moved the way my mouth is aligned and the braces are kind of moving it back to the way it was before, which was fine. And anyways, so I would have like, you know, my daughter needs braces for like a very specific reason around this tumor she had removed and lost part of her anyways. And so that is like, my kid would still get braces.
Yeah,
Like my braces, I certainly could have done without / pushed it off for years if I needed to.
Right.
And like Greg got LASIK last year. He highly loves it and values it. But if we couldn't afford it, he wouldn't have done it. So there's certainly like medical stuff that I would consider in a more, not just cosmetic, but just like an optional category of they could be put off until we could afford it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I hear you.
But I think we could do, I don't think there's anything else I would put in phase 2. Oh, other than I would negotiate bills. So, I mean, there's a lot of companies that have like hardship programs, and, you know, you should do all this stuff anyways, but like, you know, you call and kind of renegotiate a lot of your utility bills and look at competitive prices, and many companies match them. And then there are actual like hardship programs if you're having trouble, you know, paying your bills, where the companies will negotiate with you on certain things. So I probably would get into that if the, you know, things got real, somewhere between that and the like phase 3 real emergency phase.
Yeah. Maybe you could even just cut back or negotiate on like your lawn care, right? Which felt, I think for both of us, we're like, oh, but maybe they could mow every other week or, you know, start later, stop sooner, that kind of thing. Figure it out.
True.
Yeah. All right. So phase 3, real emergency, whatever that would look like for you. But this is like things are dire, like major changes. And the first thing that came to mind, I mean, this would not be a quick or easy thing, but like if things really got real, I would sell my house. And I love this house. Like I cried when we walked in this house. I was like, please don't sell this house to anyone else. I love it so much. But I could also, you know, to our overarching theme, I love this house. And I also know I could live a very happy and fulfilled life without it. It's often our like not just our biggest expense of the month, but it is often more than the rest of our expenses combined. So we could downsize to an apartment. I'd still probably be looking at something that was like $2,000 or $3,000 in rent, depending on how dire things were. And if they got really bad, I mean, we have family who would take us.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that. I was like, man, my brother wouldn't be happy, but he'd take us.
Maggie, you'd take me in. I could come sleep on your floor and
We don't have a gym anymore. We gave that up for one of our kids. Sleep on her floor. But yeah, you could sleep with a teenager in their room. Yeah.
Amazing.
I agree. I would also be sad to do it, but mainly because of the neighborhood. Less attachment to the house, more to the neighborhood. But I would sell my house and downsize to and we don't pay a mortgage, so it wouldn't save us money. It would make us a massive amount of money, right? Because we would get all of the value of the house, and we could live for, gosh, this is an interesting exercise. How many years? If we downsized all the spending that we're talking about, if I pulled back all the spending like travel and everything else, then I think we could get to the point, we spend about $100,000 a year. I think we could get to the point where we spend 60 to 70 without, and be fine. Probably 60 based on what I know from other people. And so if we sold this house, I mean, we'd have 10 to 15 years, if it was invested also, we'd have 10 to 15 years of living expense.
Yeah.
I'm doing quick math, 15 years of living expense. Sorry, we have to go live somewhere else though, which would cost us something. So I guess my point is, yes, similar to you, we could downsize, we could live in an apartment, we could live in a smaller house, we could just move, even within the same school district we're in, we could just move to a less expensive neighborhood. There are some.
Yeah.
And or we could move in with family if we had.
Right.
And so there's a lot of options when it comes to housing that are less expensive than where we live.
Totally. And because I think about that sometimes, because even I've said a bunch of times, I don't want to retire in this house. Like, it's too much house. It's too much work. We don't need 2 home offices if we're both retired. And so, but I always think that we would kind of, move into like a high rise or kind of like a nice building. Obviously, if things were very real, we could also live in like a less nice apartment building. We could find, a studio apartment in a not trendy sort of walkable part of town, and that would be less than $2,000 to $3,000 a month. But I think often about just like, do I need to live here? Should we just move somewhere smaller but still nice? Yeah. So hopefully that's not happening anytime soon.
Yeah.
In my phase 3 real emergency, you mentioned selling your car in phase 2. So we're already a 1-car household. Technically, at this exact moment, we are a 2-car household because I bought a car this year and I haven't gotten around to selling our old one, but we don't drive it. So in phase 3, like if it happened today, I would say, we'll just sell the newer, nicer car we got and we'll just like keep our old junky car. Like, that's easy. But even after that car sold, we could sell that car and trade it in for something not as nice. Like, I don't need to drive. My car that has massaging seats in it does make me very happy, but I could also live a happy and fulfilled life without it. Yeah, I would be fine without it.
Okay.
Yeah. One of the ones that I would put in phase 3 that I think maybe other folks might put sooner on the scale would be cutting food spending. So our current average spending is $1,300 a month for 2 people. That's everything. That's restaurants, takeout, coffee, groceries, alcohol, anything I buy at the grocery store basically goes into that. So if we just cutting restaurants would bring that down to about $1,000 a month, and that would save about $3,600 a year, or like $300 a month.
Yeah. I think we would save, I think I would also cut back. I don't think I could cut back much on our groceries, honestly. Little stuff here and there, but like we could cut back on some eating out, but we would maybe save $1,000 a year total top if we would pull.
I don't want to cut back on, like,
I don't want to either.
I think
We're
the
already
thing
pretty
too,
lean.
so we're not especially lean, I would say, on groceries, but if everything else is on fire and all we're really doing is like staying home and watching our Hulu with ads, like I just think that we need to have nice groceries and trying to save, that extra $200. I would go to a lot of other things first before I would be like, okay, no ice cream, like no snacks. Like I would cut a lot of other things before I would cut my groceries.
Well, I was really shocked. I didn't even see this till just now, by the way. I kind of missed it on your list. I was shocked by your like very last item. That it was so far down on the list. I just would have thought it'd be like up top.
So the very last thing I listed is cutting out our house cleaners. That would be one of my last cuts. We paid $220 every time they come. They come every 2 weeks, so it's usually $440 a month. Every once in a while, just the way the weeks fall, it ends up being $660 a month. So it's about $3,000 a year. Or no, sorry, it's $6,000 a year. My first thing I would say, just come once a month instead of twice, and that would save us about $3,000. But it is one of the things that just makes my life so much easier. It means that we're not spending our free time, which lately is precious, doing it. Like we're not sort of arguing about like whose turn it is to clean the bathroom or being annoyed that the other person hasn't done the thing that they were supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I love our cleaners. I'm like happy to support their business, and it would just be one of the last things that I would cut.
Well, I'm just curious if part of the real emergency was like job losses, you were available.
Yeah.
Would you put it higher up, or is it a time, or
I
is
don't
it
know. I also just like hate doing it.
Okay, well that's what I was wondering, because I can feel you on like that's how I feel about lawn care. I actually really enjoy cleaning.
Oh,
and I have
that's
like
great.
control issues about it. I mean, I haven't had a house cleaner a really long time. Even when I had a very, very well-paying job and was very busy, I still did not have a house cleaner because it's like partially control. Like I want it cleaned a certain way, and I kind of don't mind doing it. Like I like to put some headphones on, and Greg also doesn't really mind doing it.
That's a lucky way to be.
Well, he needs to be like asked to do it, like like reminded. But like he cleaned 3 bathrooms for me this weekend, actually.
Oh, that's great. I mean, this isn't totally in order. I mean, on this actual page, I put it after like selling our house. Obviously, I would cut the house cleaners before I would sell our house, but like different circumstances.
But I was surprised this was behind like Peloton.
Yeah, I would cancel Peloton before I canceled my house cleaners for sure.
Okay, yeah, it was surprising. More so because of what I thought your love for Peloton was.
Yeah.
Okay, so what, like on that note, what wouldn't you cut? What would be, I mean, on the like, what's not on this list, if you will?
Yeah, when I think about things that I would be very hesitant, like things would have to be really bad before I would think about this. So health and mental health are big spending categories for us. Therapy and physical therapy are things we both use often and are important to us just being able to enjoy life. So that would be, I don't want to say anything's a total non-negotiable, but that one would be hard. I have 3 things. The second would be, I mentioned this, groceries. If you're not spending money, if you're not leaving the house, you got to have good groceries at home. And then, and especially on the groceries piece, like I just think about early COVID days, and I say half jokingly, like our groceries were kind of the only thing bringing me joy. Like I would go for walks and I would have nice groceries, and like that was kind of it. And I realized how important that was to me. And then lastly, live performances are always something I list as something I really value. Now I could definitely cut back here. Like I don't need to spend $800 to be like front row to my favorite band. I could sit further back. I would prioritize like free shows or going to smaller bands where maybe you just pay a cover charge, or going to small plays, that kind of thing. But live performances will always have a line item in the budget for me. What about you?
So I'll be honest, my first response is like the sort of like stoic in me feels like I truly could be okay without anything. And like if I really had to, I was kind of going through in Monarch, because it makes it so easy. I feel like an ad for Monarch. I'm just like in love with Monarch right now. I'm in the
It is really,
honeymoon phase.
I'm enjoying it. Yeah.
It's really clean. Well, the thing is, when we used Mint, Greg did it, and like it had 2-factor authentication. It was a pain in the ass to like log into it even. Mm-hmm. And they don't have like an app. Do they even have an app? They did have an app.
Yeah,
it was just, everything was a pain in the butt with Mint. And was not, you just couldn't like, I didn't, it was hard for me to go into it. So I'd have to wait till like Greg gave me a report at the end of the month. And so I just love that I can like go into Monarch and see stuff. I will say, I at least want to believe that this is true. There's just not a lot of things I couldn't do without, like I spend $170 when I buy a new pair of Hoka's about twice a year. Like that's a pair of running shoes. And before that I was into Ons. But there was a time when I bought this was inflation also, but like my running shoes cost me $60 and I was fine. Right. Yeah. I could buy some used shoes. Like there's a lot of used shoes where they're like barely used. Somebody bought them and they're, I could buy the colors I don't like, which are like on sale at the end of the sin, like I wouldn't be so choosy about my colors, stuff like that. I do really like certain electronics, right?
But would you like just say, oh, I'm not going to buy running shoes. I'm not going to go run?
No, And I wouldn't and I'm getting to the point where like my feet get weird pains and like when I don't wear supportive shoes. And so,
yeah, no,
I would prioritize good quality things, but yeah, I would. So yeah, that would be the things that would be like last for me to cut, but I would stretch them out longer. I would, I'd look for better deals, so I'd cut some of it, but no, I wouldn't not, and I wouldn't run in like crappy shoes.
Right. That makes
sense.
Guess
I could take up barefoot running, which many people claim is like good for you and you take practice to get to it.
Yeah.
But I do, outside of some things to clothe my body and give me basic needs, like I'd keep buying deodorant, stuff like that for everyone's sake. I think I could just do I like to think at least that I truly believe I'd be fine without all this stuff. In some ways even better, and I don't mean better, I just mean some of the physical trappings, so I think some quote unquote suffering, and again, very stoic view, but is good for me. And it doesn't scare me to think about having to cut certain things. If anything, sometimes I'm like, oh, it'd probably be a good, it's kind of why I like frugality, and it's a good challenge to see what I can do with less and what I can live without. And so I think this is kind of a fun exercise because I do believe I would, it reminds me that I would still be fine. I'd still be alive. I'd still be living. My kids would still be, here, and I would be happy without all of this stuff. And again, like we said at the beginning, I still enjoy these things, right? They add value to my life on a day-to-day basis, especially the lawn care. But I know that my happiness is not dependent on it. And I think that is a super important mindset to hone and to, get to that realization with yourself. And then the one thing I would say that I'd be hesitant to cut, just back to that point, is I would be very protective of certain things with my kids. Again, not the bougie stuff with my kids, but the them still being able to play sports if that's important to them. And, just things that, I don't want them to have to feel awkward. Again, I'm not talking about they don't need Lululemon, but I also want them to feel like they have the support they need in their lives to do, what is important to them. And I don't want them to suffer too much just because I find it fun. Fun's the wrong word, but I find it to be a fun challenge sometimes to, not care what temperature it is in the house or, other things like that. I don't, I want to be careful about what I force upon them at a too young of an age, when is a, very impressionable age. But also my kids are fine and they have a lot of nice stuff that they don't need and they'll be okay with that.
Yeah. And to your point, you didn't have a lot of the things that they had growing up and you turned out great. And in some ways, we are all always at risk of spoiling kids, right?
Yes.
It's a balancing act between giving them the things that they need to feel loved and supported and thrive, and also not putting them into a place where they become entitled or feel like they can't function without those things.
That's one of my biggest worries is I don't want my kids to be spoiled, and I want them to just realize what's important in life, right? And the more I give them, the more comfortable I make them all the time, and the more they think things are easy. It's why I want them to, learn to work to make money, and they have to earn money to go do stuff with their friends. And yes, I could afford to just throw money at them, but I don't want to. It's not what I want to teach them and what I want to instill in them.
Right. I think you're doing a good job.
Oh.
I know. Every time you talk about your kids, they seem happy and healthy and lovely humans.
Yeah, and they got their Lulu tights on.
So they seem like they're doing great.
I mean, not always, to be clear. That's not all the clothing they own. It's a small percentage of the clothing.
Amazing.
Okay. Well.
Did we do it?
We did it. Did do it. I mean, we didn't do it. We hypothetically did all this stuff, to be clear.
We cut nothing.
We cut nothing. But we realize we can cut these things. And again, like we said at the beginning, I think this is actually a helpful exercise for you personally to go through so that if and when something does happen, and again, could be something voluntary that you initiate, it could be something that happened to you, it could be, the looming recession we've been hearing about for a while now. You're prepared to make these changes and you've already put some thought against what you would change. And again, I think just going through this exercise, even if you never have to use it, reminds you that you'll be fine if and when you did have to.
Yeah, I fully agree with all of that. It's interesting. Sometimes I just feel like I look at the end of the month and I'm like, wait, how is this total so high? Because this all seems reasonable. Nothing is sort of off the bat something that I would want to cut just for the sake of it, but it is helpful to know that I could if I needed to. And to spend some time thinking Yeah, I would really miss my Peloton membership, but like
You'll be
I could
okay.
still pedal on my bike and just stare at a blank screen.
Yeah, you could put your iPad up there. You
Yeah,
fashion something else
exactly.
there.
Yeah, that's
Watch
true.
your ads on Hulu, you know?
Oh, yeah, just watching ads while pedaling on the bike. That sounds great.
We could share a Hulu account if we needed to.
We could share an account with ads.
share an ad free. We could even maybe splurge and share an ad free account.
Oh,
you know?
Or we could get that Black Friday deal for $1 a month and
Jeez, wow.
50 cents a month for Hulu.
Look, if we learned anything from this episode, it's Maggie's doing the Black Friday deal. I'm going to think of that every month when I like shell out like 8 or what. They keep raising the prices, which is why I finally went back to the ad.
I know. I'm old enough to remember when Hulu was free.
Uh-huh.
That was nice. I liked it. Anyways.
Remember when we didn't have streaming services?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. Related to this, have you watched Leave the World Behind? Is that what it's called?
No, but I saw your Instagram stories this morning. So I've seen that movie. It's the one with Julia Roberts, right?
Yeah.
So you posted about Leave the World Behind and that you really liked it. I've seen the trailer for it and it looks good, but maybe like I can't watch things that are too intense. It gives me nightmares and it gives me like a lot of bad dreams. So that might be too much for me. But I also saw that you posted that you didn't like The Family Switch, Jennifer Garner's holiday movie, and I thought it was so cute.
I didn't. I liked the ending. That was it. I just felt like it was, maybe I was in like a bad frame of mind when I watched it or something, but like even the kids, we all found it annoying. Like we just were like, and I love a good cheesy holiday movie too.
Yeah.
I'm not even sure if it falls in that category, honestly. It's got too big. I feel like you can't put Jennifer Garner in a movie and call it a cheesy holiday movie, but
it's not like a Hallmark holiday movie.
Yeah.
It's more in the like
Home Alone,
Elf, Home Alone category.
Yeah, it's like well produced, done. Yeah, I
Right.
just didn't care for it. But man, Leave the World Behind. The point about it is, at some point, I was just getting rid of a ton of DVDs. It was streaming's what made me think of it. It will make you think about all the things we rely on day to day.
Yeah.
And when we had really fascinating discussions with our kid around it. Speaking of like, if it would freak you out and you're like, I'd have nightmares. I was talking to one of my kids afterwards and I was like, are you okay? Like, was that scary to think about? And she was like, a little bit, but I'll be okay. And like, we really were talking about it because I'm not going to get into it, but I highly recommend watching.
All right.
I
like it.
I think you guys would like it. I don't know. It's the wrong word.
I
think
just
it would be
switched to
an
Netflix.
experience.
I canceled Hulu because I feel like we hit it. Like, you know how sometimes you're like, wait, there's nothing left to watch
Yeah.
that we want to watch. I don't want to start something new. So I switched over to Netflix because one, they have better holiday movie selection, I think. And then I just started watching First Wives Club and Insecure are on Netflix.
Oh, is First Wives Club good? I looked preview.
The TV. So I've seen the movie, of course, but this is like the TV adaptation. The first 2 episodes, I was like, oh, this isn't very good. But then for me right now, it's just a like working out show.
Okay, yeah, which is lower quality, I guess.
Yeah, and I watch it on my iPad. So I actually watch it at 1.25 p too.
Wait, you can speed up stuff on your iPad now?
On the Netflix app, you can speed things up if you're watching it in a browser on your mobile device. You can't speed it up if it's on your TV. But First Wives, it's a silly, fabulous women getting up to hijinks in fabulous Manhattan kind of, it's just silly and fun. But I do find I enjoy it a little bit more at 1.25.
Yeah, that's funny. I don't know that I've always like wanted TV to be sped up. I feel like we've even talked about it, the way you can speed up audio, but I'm like, I don't know what it's going to do to my experience when I start speeding.
I worry about my focus and attention span because I listen and watch so many things sped up.
Yeah.
I've lately moved my podcast. I used to listen to all podcasts at 2x and now I'm trying to do like 1.2-ish.
Yeah.
Because
I'm in the like 1.5 to 1.7 range on a book. It depends who it is because sometimes it varies.
Yeah.
But 2 is aggressive. That's hardcore.
You get used to it. I think the problem is that then I'll be like in a meeting and I think I have a hard time paying attention because everyone is speaking at 1x.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wish I could speed up this real life situation. And I think that says something kind of scary and dangerous about the world. So,
yeah, right.
Anyways.
Okay. Well, we should probably wrap this up. If you're still here, we appreciate you all listening. We know your time is limited and valuable. And the fact that you want to hear Liz and I talk about what we're watching right now is, for you.
Exactly.
If you've enjoyed this episode, hey, this is like the holiday season right now. So this is a great time to give Liz and I a little holiday gift, which is totally free. Take like 1 minute. If you leave us a written review on Apple Podcasts, we greatly appreciate it. It's super helpful. It helps other people find the podcast. You can also leave a rating on Spotify. We really appreciate it. If you have done that in the past, or if you are willing to do it right now.
I go back and reread some of the nice ones sometimes just when I'm feeling down and need a
too.
little boost.
Yeah. I always think it's like lovely to see them.
Yeah. You can also share this episode with a friend or a family member. Maybe if you share your household finances with something, you could listen to this episode and then talk about cutting back, or with an accountability partner. Like listen, we made a podcast, like we made some content, but I also just enjoyed having this conversation with Maggie.
Me too.
For my own benefit.
You might want to share it with the family member who is on your phase 3 list that you're going to move in with to confirm, like, I'm going to send this to my brother and be like, hey, just so you know, you're my backup plan. Would have been my mom, but she lives in a senior community now and they don't accept people my age. So it's going to be him.
I think that's a really good idea.
Yeah.
You can also subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts: Overcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google. Is Google Podcast going away? I think it is.
I think it's still a thing. Anyways,
For some reason I thought it was going away.
List podcast.
Yes. And if you have thoughts or questions or complaints or feedback or jokes or literally anything, we would love to hear from you.
Yeah.
And you can leave a voicemail or send a text to 404-981-3370 or find us on Instagram.
Okay, awesome. Thanks, Liz.
Thanks, Maggie.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.